run. So once again, thank you so much for joining us for this webinar. We believe so strongly that everyone that has joined will have, we are going to learn a lot. Myself, I'm ready with my pen and paper to learn from people that have gone ahead of us to put us through in some things today. So please, if you have any question, feel free to put it in the chat box so that we can take it one after the other. But as much as possible, let's be concise. And when we are putting that, let's remember to put our names. If there are any questions at any point, please, and please, while the speakers are speaking, we would implore everyone to please mute your speakers so that we can hear ourselves clearly. This session is recorded, and everyone that is participating in this webinar today will get a copy of the recorded webinar at the end of the meeting. So thank you so much. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to start by looking at the profiles of the amazing men that we have today on the webinar. I'm going to start with, hold on a second, please. I'm going to start with Professor Oladapo Ashiru. Prof is somebody I see from afar, and I have a whole lot of regard for. Professor Oladapo Ashiru is the president and the chief medical director of Medical Arts Center and Math Lab Detox Clinic in Lagos. It's interesting to know that Professor Ashiru pioneered the IVF program in Nigeria as far back as 1984. That is amazing. And he said, and his team successfully delivered the first test tube baby in Africa in 1986. This is somebody we're going to learn a whole lot from today. He is the pioneer director of a university based in Chicago. He pioneered the IVF program in a university in Chicago in 1996. I'm sure a lot of us were still very young at the time. He has over 25 years in the management of difficult cases in infertility, 28 years experience in IVF, and 15 years experience in ICSI and new assisted reproduction technologies. And recently, Prof. Ashiru became the first Black member of International Federation of Fertility Societies, IFFS Executive Council. He's the first Black member to achieve that. And he has also authored a book called Want a Baby, a book on the causes and management of infertility. So thank you so much again, Professor Ashiru, for joining us. Now we'll go to Pastor Adesomi Popola, who is an astute pharmacist and businessman. He's the group managing director of Reels Group, comprising of Reels Pharmaceutical, Reels Specialists, Reels Confectionery, and has been in the pharmaceutical practice for more than 27 years, after working with a number of companies with clean record. Pastor Adesomi Popola, FPSN, is a hardworking, visionary, and resolute man of high repute who has successfully carved a niche for himself in the pharmaceutical and manufacturing industries. And as of today, the confectionery firm, which is locally manufacturing candles, stand out to be the best among equals. Professor Adesomi Popola, FPSN, holds B Farm second class upper division plus an MBA degree plus MBA degrees, and has attended several professional courses like effective selling skills, area managers workshop UK, train the trainer workshop UK, sales manager workshop UK, owners managers program Lagos Business School, and also attended the C Transformation Program of Stanford Business School, held in Ghana, Cohort 4. He's also a motivational speaker and the Assistant General Overseer of New Testament Assembly Worldwide. Pastor Adesomi is married to children. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. We are very glad to have you. Okay, now I'm going to move to Dudley. my very good friend Julie Chiwendera, is the head of health sector with New Zealand Trade and Enterprise for the US market. Dudley research interests include artificial intelligence, consumer medical IT, biopsychosocial IT, digital health, and other emerging technologies. Previously, Dudley worked with IQVIA's Orphan Drug Unit, operating under the Strategic Drug Development Division, where he was in charge of building out its portfolio across the 24 states west of Mississippi, Australia, Western Canada, South Korea, and Taiwan. Prior to that role, he was at Quintiles IMS and ran a portfolio of over 400 EVP, in charge of building out its portfolio across the 24 states west of the United States, Western Australia, Western Canada, South Korea, and Taiwan. Earning a successful acquisition bonus following a successful acquisition for 27 million USD for the consulting firm that started with $5,000 at the kitchen table 5 years prior. Prior to the role, he was at what was then the world's leading consulting firm with 75% of North American market share and 20% European market share, known as Orphan, that ran a portfolio of over 400 EBP, in charge of building out its portfolio across the 24 states west of Mississippi. Dudley is a consultant and is available for hosting presentations for domestic and international groups. He has received LLB honors from the University of Zimbabwe, Mount Pleasant, Harare, and his LLM from University of Georgia, Athens, United States. So thank you so much, Dudley, also for joining us. And last but not the least is Mr. Abiodun Sholanke, MNIA, AIA, is a licensed architect based in Lagos, Nigeria. He's worked with prominent consultancy and contracting firms in the industry for over 12 years in the leadership role. He's passionate about social housing and global development, especially for the underserved. He's the co-founder of Lighthouse Architecture and Development, integrated practice focused on architecture, civil and environmental engineering. The firm constantly seeks transdisciplinary approach to efficiently use local materials in solving social problems. His mission is to bring about transformative thinking and application of renewable materials in eradicating poverty, especially in housing for low and medium income families. He believes the highest form of efficiency is to make the best use of local materials with global perspective in solving affordable housing and other societal problems. He has won so many awards and fellowship. Prominent is the Arimello Foundation Fellowship in Green Building Materials and Sustainable Architecture. He's a member of the prestigious Nigerian Institute of Architects. He's affiliated with the American Institute of Architecture, American Wood Council, and is the West African Ambassador for the International Living Future Institute. Mr. Abiodun is married with children. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We are very excited. So as we get started, prior to this conversation today, I did a bit of research and I came across a few things. I was looking at the global healthcare market. So I understand it's worth over $11.9 trillion. Initially in 2018, it was about $8.5 trillion. And by 2020, it is estimated to be about $12 trillion. But guess what? The biggest of that is not Africa. I look at the United States healthcare. It was reported to be 3.5 trillion in 2009. But India, that is not so far away from Africa, I understand is worth about 280 billion by reports by Statista.com by 2020. So we have a lot of potential here, but unfortunately in Africa where we are and where we operate, that is significantly low. If we look at medical tourism, brain drain that we are going through in the medical field and generally in the health sector. So there are so many things that we are battling with. So from there, I would like to start with Professor Ashiru, sir. If you can just give us your introductory notes before we go into the question and answer, sir.
Well, very good. I'm happy to be here. And I congratulate you for highlighting and focusing on the subject matter that I consider very important. You're looking at the health sector and you're looking at global health. Just your last comment, you will see that the problem with health in Africa is that if you look at all those countries, the spending by Nigerians in those countries are substantial. If you imagine the amount of money that leaves the country in terms of foreign exchange on medical care, is substantial because we do not begin to believe in ourselves. And this, of course, were the things that were instituted by the colonial masters when they were here and they were practicing. They were making practice and making some considerable money, but they said that it was social welfare, but they were draining our resources and gave us that. And when they left, they created a situation in Nigeria and in most of these countries that our citizens will not want to practice or consult in Nigeria, but to go abroad. And that situation has become worse by the year. I'll give you a simple example. In 1983, in Nigeria, people came from Saudi Arabia to UCH and teaching hospital. All their sultans, they came here and took there for medical care. By 84, when there was a crisis in medical sector, they now created a situation that Nigerian doctors have to live here and go to such countries to practice. And that created a decrease in manpower in Nigeria in healthcare. And unless something is done carefully to reverse the situation, it will be the same for all the health sectors. Lastly, just to give you an example, in the area of assisted reproductive technology, when we started the procedure in 1984, only 5% of Nigerians stayed in Nigeria for such treatment. But today, only 5% of Nigerians travel abroad for such treatment. As a matter of fact, we're now having people come to Nigeria from America, from Britain, and all other countries, and the neighboring West African countries to take medical health in assisted reproductive technology. But when I speak my presentation, you will see how the Western world had tried to discourage that. So let me stop at that brief introduction and then let the others contribute.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for that introduction. Dudley, you want to give us your own introduction? Hello, Dudley, can you hear us? Oh, brilliant.
Trying to unmute myself, and I hope you can hear me loud and clear now. I believe what the professor has said carries a lot of credence across the continent. It is our experience that, in the early days of, what should I say, post-liberation from the colonial powers, that healthcare systems across the continent were generally in a good state. But I believe this was underscored by the fact that they were established for a minority population, and with increased access to the general populace got overwhelmed, and with a whole host of neocolonial factors, some to which he might have alluded, we saw the crumbling of the health system. So we have lost a lot of skilled labor to different markets elsewhere. Whereas we produce a lot of skilled labor, we have not managed to harness their support for our populations. So I believe when you look at the global markets and the amount of cash flight that we're experiencing on the continent due to medical tourism, the numbers are quite shocking. And possibly this platform that you've set up, among others, will be a catalyst for us to have a rethink and a relook at what it is that we could be doing going forward. So we could take a snapshot in time of what the landscape looks like right now, and possibly come up with a framework that will allow for us to fix and recondition our health sector across the continent. So I'll say those are my brief introductory remarks, and I want to thank you for putting this forum together. I believe there is strength in having a round table and having a collective a body of wisdom put together. So that's all I have to say by way of introduction at the moment.
Thank you so much, Dudley, for that introduction. Mr. Sholanke, do you want to quickly give us your own introductory speech, please?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, the moderator, for having me on this platform. I consider myself very privileged to share the stage with these great icons, and I greet you, sirs, and my respect for you, sirs. It's amazing when you have an architect on a forum that has practitioners and icons in the health industry, and we are here discussing silver linings in the health industry. I would borrow a leaf from what health organizations, One Health talks about human environment and animal health all coming together. And my point of view today will be the area of application, that seeing ourselves as solution provider, irrespective of the field we find ourselves, driven by the need to provide solution and rise to the occasions of the crisis and situations around us, such that we can provide and meet the needs as they arise. And it's amazing that we are here discussing the fact that we have most of the medical tourism from Nigeria to other countries. While you were reading my profile the other day, I stand prominently by this statement that we have a local advantage. And these crises provide opportunities for our researchers, for our health practitioners, about our alternatives that we have always had even before the Western world came. We talked about the everything we take, the drugs we have today being shipped in, and the raw material being taken away from us. Now is the time to take our anecdotes to the process of being standardized, so that we can stand global, shoulder to shoulder, with the drift and the shift that is taking place in the health sector globally. I don't want to delve too much, but I consider it such a privilege by the way of application. There are no wars, it's one health. No wars in the sense that as an architect, whoever we are or wherever we find ourselves, we can find the connection and, driven by solution, find our place on the global platform. Thank you for having me. Let me stop it there for now.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sholanke. I forgot to mention that Mr. Sholanke recently came up with an innovation for a less wash solution. I'm sure you will be able to tell us about that as we go on. Pastor Popola, are you there, sir? Hello, Pastor. Okay, I think he will be joining us. I'm not sure he can hear us. It's actually raining heavily in Lagos today.
Yeah, I'm here. I can hear you. I can hear you.
Oh, perfect, sir. All right, sir. Please, can you quickly give us your introductory notes so that we can go on? Thank you for joining us, sir.
Well, I'd like to thank you for inviting me to this webinar, which is the COVID-19 pandemic, looming economic recession, the silver linings for health sector SMEs in Africa. I want to start by saying there are a lot of silver linings for health sectors in Africa, but know that there's looming economic crisis. In the pharmaceutical sector, the first challenge we have when we started this crisis was that the raw materials were stopped from coming to Nigeria from India. And that's one major challenge for us. And that's major challenge for the government of all African countries. That we need to develop the active raw materials so that if this thing paraventure come again, we'll be prepared. We're not prepared healthcare-wise in Africa for this type of pandemic. It's the first pandemic in the last 100 years, and it caught Africa or Nigeria napping. So just like John F. Kennedy has said that crisis is written in two letters in Chinese. The first one is danger, and the second letter is opportunity. So it depends on which of the two you take. So I believe Africa should go for the opportunities by using this period to develop our capacity to manufacture our drugs locally and to manufacture our active raw materials locally. If we do this, it's not going to catch up nothing. So it is the strongest, it is not the strongest of all animals that survive, it's not the sweetest, but the one that is adaptable to change. So it's a period for us to change the dynamics in Africa healthcare. And I believe this will give us a platform. And by the grace of God, things will be better when we have another opportunity for another pandemic. I pray it will not come in our time. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that introduction, sir. One thing I hear from everybody is talking about localization. We have to start doing things ourselves. The pandemic has really exposed to us. We know that we don't have all the infrastructure as a continent, as a country, but we were not really prepared. How can we now begin to grow things locally? We're going to be speaking more about that, but let's start from Prof and from Pastor Popola. You have run businesses here for over 2 decades. You've been doing this. You've gone through the different stages. There's so much that the younger ones can learn from you, especially in the health sector. So I will start with Prof. Sir. Sir, you've been running your businesses successfully for, like I said, for more than 2 decades, and definitely that you would have faced some particular challenges, especially in the health sector. Could you please share with us some of the challenges that you had faced that we, the younger ones, can learn from people that are already in this sector, people that are trying to come in? They said that experience is the best teacher, but somebody once corrected me and said it is the best teacher when it is not your own experience. So, Prof, we'd like to learn from you. What are some of those challenges that you face that we can, because we have gone through, the younger ones can probably avoid them, sir?
Thank you very much. What I would say is that if I have to talk of those experiences, I'll be here all day. But let me try and summarize them, and I'll give you examples. The first one is that you must always aim for excellence. You must always aim for excellence. And you must always persevere. Now, when I was training for my postgraduate program, I got through, despite all some of the various, when you talk about the Black Lives Matters, I went through a program in which a professor gave me a B, and when the matter was challenged, and he said, because you are Black, I thought although you did well, but I think B should be okay for you. By the time the matter got to the head of the department, he now realized that he had to change the grade to A because that was what I did. So this is in America because he was white and I'm Black. Now take coming to Nigeria, I asked for a loan to go and do research in vitro fertilization. This was the time when IVF was just starting in 1979. The Rockefeller Foundation, the director that happens to be my friend, said that they're not going to give me that grant for IVF because in Africa, we want you to reduce your population. But there's a lot of grant in Africa for doing male contraceptives, to do contraception for male. So I wrote the grant, I got the grant. But while getting the equipment for the male contraceptive, I equally got the grant for, those are the same equipment I can do IVF from. And that was how it started. And I realized later that they didn't want me to do IVF because all our Nigerian patients were going abroad for IVF. So if we have it in Nigeria, how will they come to America or to Britain to do it? So you have to also adapt. Then I came back to University College of Medicine, University of Lagos. And my whole idea was to develop IVF in this center. We did. And then when there was revolution during the Abacha period, I thought I should go back to America and get more information on this. And I was coming back to Nigeria. And this is another point, that Nigerians were our own enemies. I wanted to come back to the university to put all those equipment there and do IVF there. And then the University of College of Medicine, they refused. They said I've been out for too long, so they don't want me to join them. Of course, they were afraid of competition. So I got to University of Lagos State, and they said, okay, you can come here, we need you. I knew at that point that all the machines I had brought from my own fund from the US to go into University of Lagos, let me put it into my own private practice. That was how my private practice started. What are my challenges? The Nigerian factor. Nigerians will not want to patronize you in your business. They prefer to go abroad, especially for health. So you have to persevere and show excellence and show that you are the same, if not better than those people. Then they will stay. In one area, I invested so much money to start a maternity care where people can have zero tolerance for neonatal maternity or maternal mortality. So mother and child will come back alive, will come out. I got all the equipment they needed. The patients who get pregnant from my IVF center, and then when it gets to 3, 4 months, 5 months, they will go to America to deliver because they want to have their baby to have American passport. But now, with Donald Trump and with COVID-19 coming in, they now know that they can't travel anywhere, so they have to go back to their own country. And I think that is one thing that has happened with this COVID-19. Lastly, you must be a good manager of human capital, because many Nigerians don't have the correct work ethics, which is still a problem for us. We Nigerians, you don't see anything wrong in coming late to work. Nigerians don't see anything wrong in doing business at work. Nigerians don't see anything wrong in receiving guests and talking during work hours. What in other countries cannot be done, we do it in Nigeria. So there are so many challenges, but maybe during the discussion, I'll put some more. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I hear you clearly talking about we always have to, for young entrepreneurs, they should always aim for excellence. They should always persevere. And lastly, be a good manager of human capital. And yes. I agree with you when it comes to work ethics. From my own little experience, it's a big challenge that, and I don't think it's only in Nigeria, I think it's more of an African thing that we really need to talk to our people and work on. And also the Nigerian factor, the fact that we have to support ourselves. I'm sure, I hope we'll have enough time to delve more into some of that. Pastor Popola, if you can please, also, you have also run businesses in the pharmaceutical space that we are focusing on today for over 2 decades. Could you also share with us some of your own experiences, some challenges that you face, and some of the things that you want the younger ones to learn from? Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Actually, I've been running the business for close to 25 years. I hope I'm being heard. Hello?
Yes, sir, we can hear you clearly. Yes, we can hear you.
I will try and list some challenges. The webinar will not be enough to list all the challenges that have passed through in the last 24 years. But I'd like to start from the fact that the FASCA sector is a very challenging sector. The first challenge I mentioned is low barrier to entry. Low barrier to entry has made FASCA business an all-commerce market. You can't just go to Professor Ashiru's practice without having a very strong training and having a strong impact in terms of equipment and all those things. With little money, you can start FASCA business. So low barrier to entry has made everyone an all-commerce market. So to overcome that, you have to be strategic in the choice of your products that will make it impossible for charlatan to copy you. Very important, the type of products you select. Number two, I want to mention is what I call price competition by all players. Once you make your product successful, you see other people going for the same product to have made successful, and they bring down the price and tell your customers or distributors that, look, it's the same product. It's the same product I'm offering you at a lower price. So price competition is very challenging. So when we get to how to overcome it, we have to look at it. Then number three, I would say a very high cost of fund and low profitability. When the cost is high, you cannot cover your cost. And once you don't cover your cost, the profitability for that business is challenging. For example, in Nigeria now, you can, let's say between 19 and 22, you are getting the funds. If you are not getting from the CBN intervention, you are getting between 19 and 22. For you to be able to have net profit of 15 is challenging because there's a low barrier. Everybody's doing the same thing. Number four, I would like to mention is what I call the receivable challenge of institutions. If you're into ethical type of business, that means prescription products, and you supply to teaching hospitals, you supply to general hospitals, they are not paying you. They will not pay you 180 days. Some of the institutions in Nigeria are owing up to 18 months. So, and the banks are giving you 22%, 23%, and the institutions will owe you millions, and I'm serious, millions. Some teaching hospitals are owing up to 900 million globally, the industry. And this money is taken from bank. By the time they owe you up to 1 year, you have lost that money in terms of profit you are losing to the bank. So there is this problem of receivable being major challenge. So the number 5, which I said, I've discovered the pattern of disease pattern in Nigeria. I call disease pattern in Nigeria. Is in form of 20% of prescription and 80% of patient demand. Non-hospital demand is about 80%, while the hospital demand is about 20%. So whoever wants to be successful must be able to understand that and make sure that you can align your product in line with this 80-20, 80 that anybody can just walk to pharmacy and buy, and 20 is the one that is only hospitals. The type of our professors that have prescribed it is about 20% in our business. And this is another area. So on issue of the challenge we're having now is what I call the logistic challenge. Logistic challenge is how do I move my product from Lagos to Maiduguri? It's a challenge. The whole of Maiduguri needs pharmaceutical products, but how are we getting it there? The lot of Sokoto needs pharmaceutical products, Zamfara needs pharmaceutical products. So it restricts your business to certain areas, southwest and southeast. So it's a challenge that must be creatively resolved by you. Then for you to be successful, most of us, we need to be financially literate. Most of the people that are going to business are not financially literate. They can't read financial statements. And this, again, is a challenge. If you're unfortunate, you employ an accountant that is also not sound You have a challenge where you're losing money and you don't know you are losing money. So we need financial literacy. And this requires you going for more education. It's not just because you love the business and you go to the business, you have to increase your financial literacy. And I want to conclude before I go into other areas when I have an opportunity. When you want to go into pharma, you need to have a strong marketing. You need to produce. We thank God we are producing locally, but without marketing what you produce, those products will just stay in your warehouse and you will be forced to sell on just prices, reduced prices. So this is very important. I want to stop at this point and allow that to talk.
Thank you very much, sir. That's very instructive. I hear when you say that in Nigeria, maybe perhaps across Africa, because we have people from across Africa. Thank you to everyone that is joining us from Cameroon, from Ireland, from Spain, from the US, all over. Thank you so much for joining us. I hear you when you say that, so when it comes to pharmaceuticals, that is actually, it's surprising to me when you say that, but I believe you because you are the one saying it. That's only 20% are hospital demand. That is huge, and we have up to 80% that are patient demand. That's big. So I think that would be very useful for the younger entrepreneurs that are coming to this sector to know. He has mentioned a lot on marketing. We have to do marketing, and on the financial literacy. I think that cut across a lot of businesses, not only the health sector. So that's a broader topic that every entrepreneur in Nigeria and Africa really needs to pay attention to. Okay, so Dudley, will come to you now. So let's take it across the globe. You are in the US. You see a lot of startups coming in from other places entering the US market. And I have something here. So talking about digital health generally, I was looking at Wikipedia recently, and it defines digital health as the convergence of digital technologies with healthcare, living, and society to enhance the efficiency of healthcare delivery and make medicine more personalized and precise. Digital health, where would you say we currently have as a continent, as African, as Zimbabweans, as people from Cameroon, as Nigeria, generally as a continent, where would you say we have? You see, because you see both sides. So Dudley.
So I like that you have prefaced it by stating that I'm dealing with companies that are coming to the market over here. So I will be very cautious and in addressing where Africa is today. I'd like to look at the burden of communicable and non-communicable diseases that we have right now due to inadequate infrastructure and funding issues and some of the stuff that the speakers before me have mentioned. I could use an example right now of, say, Malawi. I've read a paper recently where they're saying there's about one physician for about 53,000 citizens in that country, and that there's one surgeon for about 1 million people, and that there's about 7% infantile death rate among children younger than 5 years. And this raises the question of what we need to do to increase channels to access to healthcare providers for people in our countries across the continent, given the whole host of logistical and infrastructural impediments that we have. So it looks to me like internet penetration is significant in the present day across the continent, and that we have a real opportunity in the present moment to optimize, increase of access and ease of access to healthcare for our communities where internet access has been increased. So what is it that we need to do right now? I would certainly say we're not at the same level with most of the world where digital health is concerned, but that to solve the inefficiencies and gaps that we have in our health systems, there is a need for our countries to seek technological solutions, perhaps that are pragmatic, that are cost effective, and have a ease of access and ease of use for our people. So if you look at um, internet penetration across the continent, and maybe because I perceive that the majority of the people on this call are somewhere in West and North Africa, I could give a brief rundown of what's been going on in Northeast Africa, where internet connectivity, has gone up, where we have about 24.4 million people, say, in Algeria, and about 8.2 million people in Kenya that are active on social media, and different numbers that we get when we read across the literature. So there is a need, I think, for a ramp up of e-health companies across the continent. Telemedicine. How can we get a larger community accessing the limited healthcare professionals that we have? Given a number of, say, for one country, one physician per 53,000 members of the population. If we have a digital strategy, if we have a strategy that enables them to connect with more people without them needing to travel to different communities where roads, networks, and facilities maybe do not allow for it, for the sorts of interaction that maybe doesn't require in-person contact with the patient, regarding whatever they are presenting as an ailment. So I think because of that need that's there, we may want to draw attention to accelerators and initiatives that are happening across the continent so we can help ourselves join the community of nations worldwide in really ramping up the rolling out of digital health. So there are about four groups that I want to draw attention to, which you may or may not be aware of as we speak today. But there's pharmaceutical companies that are playing a more significant role in digital healthcare development, and they're providing mentoring and financial support to e-health startups. So I want to imagine that given this COVID situation we have right now, we are beginning to awaken to the need to have homegrown e-health solutions and platforms that are affordable to our healthcare providers, affordable to the patients, and can easily be set up with germane knowledge of what's prevailing in the local landscape. So there's number one, the Merck Accelerator for Africa, which is a digital health 3-month accelerator program that's allowing digital health startups in early stages to benefit from mentoring, training, and funding up to $30,000. And then there's also the Bear Grants for Apps Accelerator, which has been conducting mentoring programs for digital health startups. And this program is offering about 50,000 pounds and mentoring by Bear experts and entrepreneurs. So looking to the third, which is Sanofi's Africa Tech Challenge, which you may or may not know, and is across the continent and is aiming to identify and reward startups across the continent, and revolutionizing practices in the health sector. And one of their key focus, which I think is very important, is telemedicine. And in a lot of instances the world over, the patient can call a doctor where you would have an ambulatory surgery center, and that would have a health professional out of the standing staff that's dedicated to virtual interactions with patients. And that saves on time, that saves on wait time. If you've been to certain parts of our continent, the wait time at a medical facility is unconscionable, where you have somebody with a very real and pressing need to have medical attention immediately. but they might have to wait the whole day or a couple of days, depending on how terrible the situation is in that part of the continent or country. So having this ease of access via telemedicine, where the patient can talk to the doctor, can go through what it is they're experiencing, and perhaps have the doctor have a diagnosis of what the issue is, what the indication is, and then find a solution. I think that's a huge need right now. And also considering that, I think Professor mentioned earlier that there's a maternity hospital, if I recall correctly, and that given the present situation where you can't fly off to foreign countries and so on, and you're stuck to your particular region, there is a need to then have these technologies allow for access to our own health professionals within the countries and within their fields of expertise to deliver their knowledge to the communities that need them. The fourth one we have is the Pierre Fabre Foundation's e-Health Observatory for Southern countries, and aims to identify and reward e-health initiatives with proven positive impact on human health in human resource limited countries, which, one example I've shared already. So where is the state, or what is the state of digital health in Africa? I would say right now we are at the early stages. There are countries in North Africa that have fairly advanced. If you look at North Africa right now, 4 out of 10 doctors are already active in digital media, and more than 50% are confirming increased activity over the last few years. And then when you look at 40% of healthcare professionals that are active on, some sort of digital media in North Africa, there's also 30% of patients that have had some sort of health app. And I think right now we have people needing to work out from their homes to stay healthy. We have people that have certain conditions, to name a few, maybe diabetes, or people who are hypertensive, and are taking a closer look at their health using apps that they can download off the Apple Store or Android. And there's been increased use of these apps and Fitbits and stuff that you can connect to the cloud, and ultimately can give you a report of how well you're taking care, or how well you're watching what you eat, and so on. So there's been an increased uptake, and I would say particularly amongst the millennial generation, who are more tech savvy, and unlike me, are not technological dinosaurs, and actually know how to navigate that whole tech space, and it's also lifestyle related. So I would say there's been some digital migration of healthcare professionals in Africa and patients, as evidenced in North Africa. And the same is happening also in Southern Africa. At a very base level, you will probably have come across somebody who's engaged with a healthcare professional using a regular app like WhatsApp, where they've gotten on a video call with their healthcare provider, and they've communicated and gotten all kinds of information and assistance using that platform. So I would say there is 40% of healthcare professionals in the northeast and west, northeast and west part of Africa, who are already active on some form of digital media for professional purposes, websites, WhatsApp groups, and dedicated app downloads. And it looks like 30% of the patients in North Africa have some sort of app for health monitoring, and close to 50% are open to having virtual consultations with their HCPs, their healthcare providers. And then it looks like from the literature I've got across, about 50% of the people say use of digital media for professionals has had an increase over the past few years, and close to 40% of people who are out there are kind of choosing healthcare providers based on an online search to kind of cross-check prescriptions as well with online information. So patients are becoming a whole lot more invested and involved in their walked healthcare. So I think digital health and e-platforms are helping us move from sick care to healthcare the proactive engagement of communities in keeping their state of health, eating right, and trying to avoid the need to actually go to a healthcare facility. So I would say in brief, to kind of allow the other speakers to dwell on other issues, that could be a snapshot of where we are. We have not had a deep engagement with digital and e-health, but the uptake is significantly rising with increase in broadband and internet, and as affected by issues to do with affordability of data and income levels and expendable cash in our communities.
Okay, thank you so much, Dudley. A lot has been said in a very short time, and I know that there are some of the things that you had mentioned that I know that people on the webinar have picked one or two things. There are conversations going on the group chat already. Please feel free to put your comments, your questions in the chat room. As we go on, we'll look at it. Dear speakers, please, we need to. If we can let our responses be short enough so that we can take as many questions as possible. So please, I will implore us to please keep it short as we can, please. Mr. Sholanke, can you quickly, please make it brief, tell us about your 360-degree and solution? And the question I'm asking is, you're an architect, and then there's COVID-19, and you decided to do this that is more in the health sector. Why did you do it? And then, what informed you in innovating and actually going ahead to do this? And then what are some of the challenges that you have faced? Some you may have overcome that you would like to share quickly. So if you will please share with us, unlike Prof and Pastor Kukwala that have been doing it for 25 years, 27 years, you are just starting. So, which is one of the reasons why we say, okay, let's have you on this course so that we can balance a little. So please quickly tell us about it and some of your tell us about your solution and some of the challenges you have faced recently that you think we can learn from. But please help us to keep it brief so that we still have a number of questions. Thank you, Mr. Sholanke.
All right, thank you so much for such an interesting question. And one thing is that when COVID pandemic started and everybody was in quarantine, one of the things that World Health Organization passed across was the fact that this virus is contacted by contacts, touches, and all that. And at the time, in the office, in the practice, a colleague, it started as a conversation. So now that people are afraid of touching surfaces and contacts and all that, what becomes the fate of public facilities, public utilities, and all that? And particularly at that time, there was a call from the Lagos state government for innovations and ideas on to help mitigate the effect of COVID. And at the time, we were about submitting our submission for the temporary shelter. So it just occurred to us that most of the facilities, the stuff we would need for the temporary shelter would have to be shipped in. Then we'll revise it and streamline it to what we can localize and have an edge of. So it started from how can we do it in such a way that people don't have to touch surfaces when they are using public utilities, and that was the beginning of it all. Yes, you mentioned as an architect, one of the things that we'll be made to know and our minds are open to is the fact that there's always a connection, and the basic connection is to be solution driven. The fact that as an architect, one now wants to streamline and edge himself out from a pandemic situation that is affecting everybody in an unprecedented manner would be to have already streamline once able to come down to the solution. In fact, available to us were to be shipped in, and that was where we now resulted to the foot operated hand wash station. We thought about it that okay, we want people to feel secure, we want people to feel safe, and how can I most of the COVID patients then were they were not showing symptoms. And how would I know the last person that I used has not dropped droplets of the virus on the surfaces I'm about to touch? So that was how we came about the touchless, foot-operated hand wash station. And it comes in such a way that we don't have to make any contact. Now talking about the challenges we are faced, one thing that I would want listeners and audience to know is that we have a lot of opportunities in Nigeria. When Pastor Kukola was talking about logistics, I was just nodding in response to this. We had supplies that we wanted to make to Port Harcourt and Abuja. We had about double-digit units to be shipped the same day, and the client would use them. I think then it was gave us a week notice. We contacted the logistics company. We couldn't get anyone that would deliver within the time. So one of the
We seem to be losing you. Can you hear us?
challenges of the logistics issue. Yes, people that cannot be moved anyhow, under that so that you can move things easily. But in Nigeria, we still have a lot to deal with that. And how were we able to overcome the challenge? Ideally, we paid a premium for it. And we told the logistics company that, come, this good, we would make sure it's insured and is delivered in good condition. It has to arrive at so. But that was the second experience. The first one was heartbreaking. This particular logistic company was supposed to deliver in 3 days. After the 5th day, we were the one calling for update. At the time, they slammed the door on us and said, hold on, when it arrives, we get it to you. So there are many opportunities and many challenges. And I believe in the history of ABC, that was how the company started. ABC started as a result of the challenges of the logistics around the time. So how have we improved? Talking to millennials and my generation this day is the fact that it cannot be overemphasized that excellence must be the driving force in in arriving at your product. Number two is that while we are thinking locally, while we are producing stuff and trying to make best use of the active raw materials that we have, we must have a global standard in perspective.
Okay, Mr. Sholanke. Okay.
Such
you have to start very soon. We are trying to manage time, please.
Nigeria for a good that is obeying your product, this is produced locally, then we go ship across. I want to wait it, but I believe I've addressed the question properly.
Thank you very much. You sure did. And so one lesson for me and for everyone on the call is, I don't have to be a medical doctor. I don't have to be a pharmacist, but there are so many things. There are so many innovations that can happen around health sector, around the different sectors that we are in. So thank you so much, Mr. Sholanke, for that. Prof, quickly, sir, when you were talking, you mentioned medical tourism. It is estimated that Nigeria loses about $1.3 billion to medical tourism on an annual basis. Tanzania, Kenya, Sudan, Mauritius, Egypt, South Africa, there are some other big spenders when it comes to medical tourism. So it is a continental problem. But recently, I saw in the news, one of the hospitals in Lagos that did they said they had a successful complex heart surgery involving coronary artery. So my question, sir, is so some of these things that we go abroad for, and I've seen some other things, I follow some of these news. I see some other things that people go abroad for, but they are now happening locally. You had mentioned before, people get pregnant and they go abroad to deliver their children. Now that COVID-19 is here, it has exposed us a lot, especially in the health sector. What do you think are the effects of the pandemic and the new normal that we have now on medical tourism? do you think people would, people will now slow down and will now begin to look inward? And then, sir, what do you think will be the opportunities for potential entrepreneurs that may want to do one or two things now that people will maybe want to now stay back? What are the things that they have to put in place? Over to you, sir.
A very good question. See, first of all, the pandemic has made our own doctors in this country and all the health professionals to be more appreciated than before. So people now know that you can't take a flight to take your ambulance to London or to India. You see, for example, we were in medicine before India, Nigeria. We were doing this, and it somehow, due to the way the coronavirus had put some wrong people in government, it is not being appreciated. So the fact that people are now looking inwards, they know that they can't go anywhere. They now have to go into the hospitals and get treatment. That's number one. Number two is that banks need to support the medical industry and give it a low interest or even, low interest support to develop and become a center of tourism. Now the CBN is giving a bank grant to doctors to develop. But the way they've made it, it's even so impossible for you to start to develop because they're asking you to bring some collateral and some things that if you have those things, you won't even go into ask for any loan. So they need to give grants to support medical tourism. Number two is that government itself needs to look inwards to support all those industries. And lastly, we have a wrong mentality that you have mentioned that a center did coronary artery bypass. How many people know about it? How many people know about the various things that people are doing? Somebody has just made a food dispenser because in medicine, we were asked not to advertise. So we don't advertise what we're doing. Nobody knows. And meanwhile, the people in India, in South Africa, in London and America, they advertise so that our own people can come. Every time I get a phone call from India, oh, we have this thing, send your people there. I said, we're doing it in Nigeria. So luckily for us, these things are being looked inward. And also, I want to comment on what was said about digitalization. We are now using digital medicine a lot. We use even mobile phones. We are using them because government should have developed internet. We begged and begged before they can even make this mobile phone. Now you can see the revolution mobile phone has done to the country. So we can either do WhatsApp talk or text, or patient can call you rather than take a taxi or go walk to the doctor. They can call and tell you they have this problem. You can text the prescription to them. So all this has to be harnessed together. And what I have always advocated for to all the ministers of health that have been is that when they are appointed minister, they should have a strategic development meeting where they will bring all the health practitioners together and brainstorm on what to do and so on and so forth. Today, we are developing primary health care. Since Professor Ramson Kuti became Minister of Health, that's what we are doing. And that primary health care, they're even stealing money in the local government centers. They are stealing the drugs and selling it and not even distributing it well. And they're chopping the money. Meanwhile, the primary health care should develop in the same pari passu with the secondary and tertiary care. All the ministers have abandoned all those other levels. And I always tell the various ministers, how can you develop primary education and not create secondary schools and universities? They must all be done together, not at the expense of another one. That is when we can know that we now have a very perfect healthcare delivery system, and it should be a union between the public practice and private practice. That again should help to propagate the health So if you are working in the government, you can also tap resources from the private, and that will help the teaching of medical education in the country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. I think another thing I hear you say in another way is we have our own problems. There are so many things that we are just undoing ourselves as a people in this society. We hope that as we go on, things will change. Before I come back to you, Pastor Popola, I would like to read some of the things that we have in the chat room. Opeyemi Olateru says, some of our pharmaceutical companies are not taking advantage of the current pandemic. One company that I noticed are quick to the response was 7-Up. Imagine 7-Up that are into food and beverages altering the production line to come up with tissue and sanitizer for both surface and hand, while the likes of Dettol are sleeping on the production. Our entrepreneurs in this sector need to wake up. Wow, I didn't know that was from 7-Up. Kayode Ladende said, this is loaded webinar with quality speakers. Again, thank you to all our speakers. They are speaking directly to the issues. I look forward to Sholanke sharing his hand wash solution. Oh, he did that already. Thank you. Olawale Owoye says, oh, so Too Sure is by 7-Up. I didn't know. Interesting. Pivoting is essential these days. Our next question is going to center around that. Thank you so much, Mr. Olawale Owoye. SOJ says, totally different from their line of business. Good thinking. Thanks to the organizer of this program. Thank you too for joining us. Joshua Oluwole says, all the speakers are phenomenal and amazing. Great to be here. Thank you so much for joining us. Loretta says, nice one. We need to be financially literate. Thank you so much. I can't read everything. Telemedicine says, telemedicine is the way forward. But in a country where the cost of internet from London to Lagos is far cheaper than the cost from Lagos to Ibadan, where state government are only keen on money from right of way ahead of internet penetration. We may not be able to take that here. Maybe when we are focusing on the technology space, we probably will do that. Adebayo Orimoloye says, well, we can move into mobile phone-based medicine. Internet may not be readily available, but phone credit is. Prescriptions can be made over the phone and medicine pickups can be done in store or delivery because the world is doing telemedicine. Using the data internet doesn't mean we have to copy verbatim. We can localize it, tweak it to fit the cultural and local landscape, similar to the mobile money. Anyone with phone can use it. Let's apply the same thinking to medicine. I think Prof already said some of those things while he was speaking the last time. Olawale Owoye says, oh, we have a simple solution for that. One number dial, that's easydial.ng, toll free on regular numbers. Oh, that's interesting. So that can be used for the health sector. Okay. We'll leave the chat room now. We'll come back there. So back to you, Pastor Popola. Recently with the COVID-19, you know, there was a lot of news around the cure from Madagascar. There were some people that said, oh, we have that in Nigeria. You know, so why do we have to go to Madagascar? My question to you, sir, is, and you know, when you walk on the road, there was a day, I can't remember what product that somebody was talking about, and it says that the competition of that particular drug is actually the agbo that you see on the streets. That's local mixture that people actually just put together. That is a major competition. But in the other way, in terms of, you know, we're talking about innovations, about doing things in the health sector. What do you think can be done with some of these local, you know, those locals? Maybe some of them work. I don't patronize any of them. But what will you say? Do you think that work? Is there a way that we can actually, you know, when Mr. Sholanke was speaking, was talking about us actually making sure that we take all these things to the international standard. What would you say about this when it comes to local and the traditional medicine that we have when we are talking about pharmaceuticals? Over to you, sir.
Well, thank you very much for that. I'd like to first of all answer the first question on the person that asked if pharmaceutical industry is not taking advantage of the COVID-19 and using the Coca-Cola or 7-Up bringing in hand sanitizer. Number one, we operate in a highly regulated industry. I hope I'm being heard. we operate in an highly regulated industry. And if you go ahead and bring in a product that is not approved by NAFDAC, but the time you come back, you face the reality of once to do that must have prepared. When the opportunity comes, it is too late to prepare. Are you with me? When opportunity comes, it is too late to prepare. And that's how it works in life. So on that issue, it is a regulated, we are operating a regulated industry. Number two, on the issue of the Madagascar cure, which has been found to be anti-malaria products, we have a lot of it being registered by NAFDAC. The only difference is that the president of that country took it upon himself to be the marketing manager of that product. I repeat, the president of that country took it upon himself to be the marketing manager of that product. And he marketed it to all African presidents at high cost. So it was when Nigerian NAFDAC now investigated, they found out it contained artemisinin. What was brought on my table? Powder. I have it on my table, artemisinin powder. Is there. So it contains dongoyaro, which is very popular in every house. It also contains ginger and garlic. So, but they have a strong marketing man in terms of their president. So if we to have a strong marketer for our locally manufactured products, we'll have gone far. But most of the time, we look down on our locally produced products and we elevated the imported product because it is well marketed. So you find that the noise about Madagascar cure has gone down. Nobody is talking about Madagascar cure again because I've discovered that they are just offering us artemisinin plants. So that is my comment on that, because we cannot just enter the market without NAFDAC approving it. So our regulatory environment is very strong for us, and we have to follow it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. We are gradually coming to the end of the program. I'm not sure we'll be able to take all the questions. We'll try the best we can do within this short time. Dudley, I'd like to ask. So presently, we all know what's happening with COVID-19. So many people have gone into manufacturing PPEs, face masks, and the rest of them. From your own experience being at that end, what are some of the opportunities that you see? And please, by the way, some of those things that you mentioned, if you can please send it, I'll contact you after the meeting so that we can share with everyone on the call. I'm sorry about that before I forget. So now, you know, you see some of those advancements, some of those things that has happened there. So with the COVID-19, and please, if you can please make it short, what are some of those things that you think that entrepreneurs here in this sector should begin to focus on, based on some of the things that the Pastor Popola and Prof has mentioned, and Mr. Shulanke?
Okay, so I will say there is a need for our entrepreneurs and innovators to create communities. I believe one of the most fundamental things we need to have is organization. You go anywhere in the world, there'll be associations that are built around segments in the sector. So the health sector is diverse and there's multiple segments. So we need to find where our domain or domain expertise or knowledge lays. And then I think it's important for our innovators in this health sector to come up with stuff that they can develop that has IP, where they will own the IP on the international front, because there's a lot of value to be had in coming up with a product that can have IP. And then looking to the global market for where they would get the highest margin and where they would have their product being found to be fit for purpose, and figure out what it is their secret sauce is within that product. How do they shift the dial on what the gold standard is in that space? So there's two things. You're either unseating some product that's been out there for a while that's established itself as the gold standard, or two, you are coming into a void where you're filling unmet need. So I think, to be really quick, there's a need to have peer-to-peer learning across the community. There's a need to do research in regulatory compliance. One of the speakers mentioned that. There's a need to build up credibility. Are we affiliated with our local research institutions like universities, so we can get papers that speak to the efficiency and the use cases for this product? So I've heard of this exciting non-touch product for hand sanitizer. What are we doing to get it out there, to get key opinion leaders in that space to speak to it, to endorse it? What networks are we building within the markets that we're targeting? I believe there's a need to have robust advisory councils where people like Professor, who've had wide and expansive experience, come together with some of the startups, and you invite people with the skills that you have, people that look like where you want to go, and they can help you with the know-who and the know-how. They have people they've worked with in different economies that they can connect you to. They plug into those subsectors. And there's also a need to really have a well thought out market strategy. Now, I'm very conscious of the fact that we want to develop this product so we can have self-sufficiency in the mother continent and in our countries. But we also need to look at what other people are doing in South Korea and parts of the Asia Pacific, where they'll look to the US and other markets that are developed, because there is a lot of funding and expenditure in healthcare. They'll come up with a solution for an unmet need, or that kind of unsettles some gold standard that's out there. And then they'll go for that opportunity so they can maximize the revenue. And then when they get that margin, they come back to the local economy with that capital, and then tailor suit some other solutions, and then have them affordable for our people, because funding is a difficult thing to get in this space. So if you can come up with an innovation that will be found to be fit for purpose in a market where you'll actually gain revenue and build up your monetary coffers, that'll help you also with other innovations that are more suited to our local needs. So I would say there's also a need to figure out how you can tag along to other businesses that already have supply chains and connections in the particular sectors you're looking to go. How does your product add value to what's already in the market? And how can you connect with those and find symbiotic relationships or synergies that can move the dial forward? And I want to stay mindful and respectful of time. If there's something you think I need to speak to further, please highlight.
Thank you so much, Judy. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. We cannot take all the questions and all the comments we have in the chat room. Let me see if I can quickly do that, because the speakers will have to start preparing to give their final comments now. Lolu Ojo says, if we want local production in Nigeria, the government must work for it. Have we asked ourselves what happens and others who were producing here before? Why did they wait to go here in Nigeria? I hope there is time to make on. Maybe if the speakers can factor. Elijah Oguniran says access to funds need to be improved upon by the government. Okay. So Adeloye says, I'm a frontline and I think it's quite good to come up with brilliant ideas, but how do you expect all this to come in place when the country is not organized? Olubuyi says, this webinar is an eye-opener. I believe this pandemic has opened our eyes to a lot of solutions using digitization. Adeshola Ajiboye, I am Dr. Ajiboye. I run Jerry Doc Limited currently. There is an acute shortage of controlled medications, specifically for oncology and palliative patients in Nigeria. It seems the Nigerian government has stopped the importation of these medications. I will appreciate any valuable support in bridging this gap. So unfortunately we have to round up. So please, speakers, you have 1 minute each to give your closing remark. Let's start with Mr. Sholanke. Please, let's keep it short so that we can close quickly. Thank you, Mr. Shulanke.
All right, thank you. It's been a wonderful time, and I want to thank you again for this opportunity. You know, pandemic as we have it now, it's been up to more than 100 years ago that it last came, and it has opened our eyes to so many things. For the first time in our countries, globally, there's no international movement, and everybody had to be quarantined. So with crisis, with pandemic comes opportunities, and then with these opportunities is the need to be solution driven. With the topic considers even the looming recession, and we have not dealt with that. This pandemic is just a preparation for economic recession that is building up, and for people to survive the season, we must be solution driven. We can convert our waste, our local advantage and local resources to global standards and make them globally competitive, such that the tourism and the capital flight we've been experiencing will stop right away, and then Nigeria will be better for it. There's no other way than pushing and stressing this fact that the Nigerians, we are the one, Africans, we are the one that will promote ourselves and promote our indigenous capabilities. And this is just the best time to do such. Solution driven, be open to receiving ideas and working on it. You don't have to be in X sector to be a player in X sector. It has come a time for us to apply ourselves. It's a level ground. COVID leveled everyone, and we just have to bring our best to the table. Thank you for having me in this discussion.
Thank you so much, Mr. Abiodun Shulanke. All right, Dudley, you want to give us your final remarks? Please, let's keep it short. Thank you.
Okay, so I see that a lot of questions are around funding and difficulties that are there on the ground, and I recognize that is a real and prevailing challenge. But I'd like for us to have our entrepreneurs look to think outside the box and not just have a bright spark moment where they think outside the box and go back in, but let's burn the box, think creatively. We're in a globalized world where you could be in Nigeria, in Ikeja, somewhere, but if you have a solution that's fit for purpose and is applicable wherever in the world, I would say go where the money is. If there's no funding at a local level from government and local institutions, but you have an innovative product that you can get IP for, look for where you would make the most margin. So if that would be in Europe, if that would be in Asia or the US, I would say there is a possibility for you as a foreign national to register an entity that you would use as a special purpose vehicle to float your idea. So the one thing I would say is whatever segment you're into, look at the conferences in that space. If it's biotech, look at Biotech International, look at Resi, look at the conferences that have funding for that particular segment. And then go there and connect with people, get plugged into the ecosystem, the key opinion leaders, the innovators, the regulators, and who it is that's driving opinion in that space. And then find a way to fix your pitch deck and connect to people that are professionals and know how to go in front of VCs, venture capitalists. So the fact that you don't have capital at your local level doesn't mean there isn't somebody out there in the world that's prepared to give you money for your product. But make sure your product has IP if it's possible. And I would say do some customer empathy work where you do your market, your design thinking approach to your project. Design thinking also in market attractiveness to see where it is where your customer segments lay, who it is that your partners look like, your channels to market and all that good stuff. So go where the money is, but do not underestimate the power of credibility. Connect with the right sorts of people that are key opinion leaders in that segment. Get the endorsements, get them on your advisory boards, get the right sorts of good old traditional handshakes and look in the eyeball, and have a lot of goodwill behind these innovations. So I would say in a minute, in a nutshell, that's a very important consideration, and peer-to-peer engagement with people that are already working in your space or who have done it. We have amazing tools like LinkedIn. You can look up people that have been at C or V level positions in companies that look like what you are looking to do. And without needing to pay a consultant at a very expensive rate, you reach out to them and you tap into their experience and then get that transferable institutional memory that's applicable at your own local level, and you move forward.
Thank you so much, Dudley, for that. Thank you. Pastor Popola, over to you, sir, as we round up. Your closing remarks, sir. You're muted, sir.
Hello, are you hearing me now?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
I'd like to wrap up by giving some information on SMEs in Africa. 95% of registered companies in the emerging economy, which happen to be part of Africa, is SMEs. But only 2% of the bank loans are geared towards supporting them, which is a big challenge. Why? Most of them are collateral challenge. So access to funding is a major challenge. So now what do? You look at your cash conversion cycle. Whatever you are selling, make sure that you can turn it to cash quickly. It's very important in this pandemic period. Your cash conversion cycle is key. So that means your DSO, days sales outstanding, must be shortened so that you can get your money in quickly. Don't go for high profit, long tenure. Identify and prioritize and execute on your short-term revenue growth opportunities. Your short-term revenue growth opportunities, try and identify them quickly during this period. Where will my revenue come? How will I get it right? Identify them and go for them. And lastly, act on your profit pools. Identify who are your profit pools, your customers, your suppliers, your products, your solutions, your channels of distribution. Look at them and decide. Don't be emotional. Don't be sentimental. Whatever is not going to give you what you require during this time, put it aside and move on. So on closing, I want to answer two of the questions that were asked on the chat room. The first one in oncology products. I happen to be involved in some oncology products earlier than now, but because of the problem and challenge with oncology products, I stopped bringing them in. But what I realized that there's one teaching hospital in Nigeria that called on all suppliers of oncology products to come and pick their products back because they are no longer having patients in the hospital because the hospitals are stylishly closed down to patients. So most of the products that are oncology, most of them will lose their money now. So encouraging them to bring in those products subsequently becomes a challenge. So this is part of the developmental problems they're having in Nigeria. Then the other one was asked by Dr. Luluju on production. Production is challenging. It's very challenging, and Nigerian government is not even helping matters. When they are to release money for SMEs, they will use man, no man to release money. And they only give a pool of people the money that will be spread over so many people. So you find out that some people are growing so large and the SMEs are going down on a daily basis because they don't have what I call a godfather to help them out. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Pastor Popola. Prof, over to you, sir. Let's have your final remarks, sir.
Thank you. Let me just say that one of the philosophers in fact, two of them had predicted that in 2020, there will be a serious plague over the world. And he said it will come suddenly and it will disappear suddenly. But he said that at the end of it, the world economy will not be the same. He also predicted that it will resurface 10 years from now. So what that means is that we need to be prepared. And this is a wake-up call for the government of the country. Because this pandemic, they have now realized that they could no longer fly with air ambulance. If you know the number of governors that are now seeking treatment in Nigeria, number of government, so they know, and we too have to be prepared for this. And as a young person who wants to be an entrepreneur, you have to start from a little level and you grow your business. So don't think you can jump to high level from the beginning. My own clinic, I always tell people, started from a section to a room in my house. It became 2 rooms, and then it now became a floor and a building, and then it has 3 buildings now. So that is when you take steps. And for me, as an Ijebuma, I didn't even want to take loan. And lastly, is that if you look at the experience, if you want to grow as a country, we must borrow experience from China. I've been to China many times. When we were going to give a conference on health, they brought their primary school children to come and listen to what we were saying. And these people, they didn't speak English, but they had a telephone that the app converted the English we were speaking into Chinese for them. So from that age, they've been programmed into different areas of science. Some of them will go to such mathematical science conference. So we in Nigeria, what are we doing with our primary school students? We're still using the blackboard for them. So government needs a wake up. And unfortunately, I must end that most people who go to government today, they're going to fill their pocket, not to really say that they want to help. And we must disband this presidential system where we spend almost, I would say 80% of our income is spent on salaries and overhead by all the people in National Assembly and in the various state governments. If we had that money, like doing a system of administration and doing the parliamentary system where you have sit-down sitting allowances, that money will be available to develop the infrastructure and develop all the processes in the company, and the company will be rich. I must say, to end it, that a government that looks after people will survive. And only 1 or 2 governments are doing that in the world. The others are not. And in Nigeria, we have to think outside of the box and help ourselves if government is not helping us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. And thank you so much, all our speakers. We cannot thank you enough for honoring us by being part of this webinar today. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dudley Shiwander. Thank you, Mr. Biodu Sholanke. Thank you, Pastor Popola. And thank you, Professor Ashiru. We are very grateful. For everyone that has joined, thank you so much. We could not have done this without you. So we appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us. The recordings will be the link to the recording will be shared with you as soon as possible. If you have any question about us, if you want to contact us, you can send email to info@brief57.com. We are going to be organizing more webinars, so expect to receive emails from us concerning this. We look forward to joining us in subsequent webinars that we will be organizing. But before then, if you have any question, please feel free to send us email at info@brief57.com. Thank you so much, everyone. Once again, thank you, our speakers. Thank you, everyone. We are grateful. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the evening and the rest of the weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you.